So I'm going to do even more practice with problems, trying to make diagrams out of word problems involving equations, and then creating equations that you could then solve. We're not going to spend too much time solving them because the goal is trying to create the equations. We then use the skills we learned in previous videos to actually solve them. So the key here is that this is slightly different from the ones we saw last video, because the modifications that are going to be done to each of the boxes in your diagram. So the word each changes things. We didn't see that on the last video, so it's going to be a little bit different this time. So look at the first one, for example. All right. Try to do it. Remember, before I do it, so you can pause the video, try to do it yourself, and then unpause to see the solution. So we have 5 bags. Each contains X pencils to give you a total of 20. But then it came back and added 3 per bag in each bag. So that means we're going to add the 3s on all the bags, not adding a 3 here the way we did in the previous problems in the last video. And then that's what repeats for all the bags. So what you're going to end up getting here is 5 sets of X plus 3 being equal to 20. And so that is a little different from last time. You end up with this parentheses because you're doing something to all of the partitions, not just at the end you add a bunch, the way we saw in the previous video. Now, of course, if we're trying to solve this, you would divide both sides by 5, which gets you 4, and then take 3 from both sides, subtract 3 from both sides, which will give you 1. So yeah, that's why they went back and put 3 more pencils, because they only put 1 pencil per bag. So what was the point of the bag, right? I don't know. Anyways, just kidding. But that's how you solve a creative diagram for that problem. So I'm going to try the second one. Pause before you try it. So here's a solution. You're going to end up with 20 total for this triangle, right? He wants it to be 20, the actual perimeter. And triangles have 3 sides, but each side starts at 5. But then each side, once again, each side gets X added to it. So that's what completes for all of them. And so you end up with 3 sets of X plus 5 equals 20. You want to solve that, divide both sides by 3, and then subtract 5 from both sides to get your answer. Or you can actually distribute it 3, and the same thing's true up here. You could have distributed 5 and then solve, but I like to do the parentheses last. Now, this shows you, again, because you're doing to each, you end up with this parentheses on this problem. So I'm going to try number 3 now. Pause before you try it. And so here's the solution. We have an art class that collects $20 total. Each student pays $3 plus the supplies. And because this is happening for each student, that's what gets copied 5 times. So you get 5 sets of 3 plus X equals 20. To solve this, you would divide both sides by 5 and then subtract 3 from both sides to get your answer. And so again, diagram, but because it's done to each, the modification is done on each box, and you end up with the parentheses on your equation, slightly different from the last video where the boxes were added to the end. Try number 4. And so here you have the solution. Elena runs 20 miles, which equivalents to 3 sets of Claire's runs. So you have 3 boxes. But Claire runs what she ran last week plus 5. And that's what multiplied times 3 for you to get Elena's run. So it's 3 sets of X plus 5, which equals the 20 miles that Elena ran, right? And so that gives you a picture of the run. And you could use this to figure out how many miles Claire ran last week. That's what the X stands for. That's another thing to think about each time. It is, what is your X in the problem? It's not always that the problem is going to tell you X equals this, but in this case, X stands for the miles Claire ran. Just like on the previous problem, X would stand for the fee that is charged on the art class. We'll practice more about this. What does the X mean on the next problem that we do, which we'll do in the next video, will be our last set of practices for these.